David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight we have breaking news, the war in Iran, gas prices hitting a new high tonight. Also the situation worsening on that cruise ship. 17 Americans trapped, at least 3 passengers dead, and now a doctor treating the passengers is now sick. First tonight, President Trump insisting the ceasefire with Iran is holding, despite multiple Iranian attacks targeting U.S. Navy ships and an oil facility in the UAE. Iran tonight says we have not even begun yet. Gas in the U.S. tonight now at $4.50 a gallon, beef prices soaring, and what Secretary of State Marco Rubio declared from the White House late today. Also tonight, newly obtained video showing those alarming moments. The United passenger jet coming into Newark over the Turnpike, and what authorities are now asking tonight. Trapped on that cruise ship, the race to contain a suspected deadly virus outbreak on board the ship in the Atlantic. 3 dead, 17 Americans among those stuck on board. And a British doctor who was treating the passengers, we have learned, has now become sick. News coming in tonight after the Secret Service and that shootout with a gunman near the White House. And now we learn tonight what he said following his arrest. Was this politically motivated? Tonight, the attack, 2 hikers mauled in a possible grizzly bear attack. Another hiker hearing the calls for help. The disturbing video showing a brawl erupting during a youth football game. Tonight, a mother under arrest, accused of attacking a young player. Tonight, tracking severe storms in multiple states and where they're getting several inches of snow in May. And the rain coming into New York City in the Northeast. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast. The urgent manhunt tonight for a retired Special Forces veteran accused of shooting his wife. Alarming video tonight showing a woman driving her car on a sidewalk, allegedly trying to run down a child on a dirt bike. Tonight, the verdict just in involving a former New England Patriots star. You'll learn what the jury decided. And tonight, the new album from the Rolling Stones. The first time hearing their new song right here. Paul McCartney, Steve Winwood among those joining the Stones right here tonight.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We begin tonight here with several breaking stories. This worsening scene, Americans trapped on a cruise ship, 3 passengers on board dead and a doctor now ill. We also have new video tonight of that plane coming into Newark Airport, hitting a truck on landing, and now new questions tonight. But we do begin with the war in Iran. Gas prices in the U.S. hitting a new high tonight. President Trump insisting the ceasefire is holding, despite multiple Iranian attacks targeting the U.S. Navy and an oil facility in the UAE. The president was pressed today. If this isn't a violation, what would be? The president's response right here. 10 weeks into the war, more than 1,500 ships remain stuck outside the Strait of Hormuz, both the U.S. and Iran tonight, claiming the strait is under their control. And what Secretary of State Marco Rubio declared about the war late today. Mary Bruce then asking, what about the nuclear material? Mary, leading us off tonight.
Tonight, even as Iran fires missiles and drones at American Navy ships and our ally, the United Arab Emirates, the Trump administration insists the ceasefire is not over. Reporters pressing the president.
They've fired at U.S. ships several times in the last 24 hours. What do they need to do to violate the ceasefire?
Well, you'll find out, because I'll let you know. They know what to do, and they know what to do. They know what not to do, more importantly, actually.
But today, a top Iranian official insisting, quote, we have not even begun yet, adding, we know full well that the continuation of the status quo is intolerable for America. Here at home, the average price of a gallon of gas now topping $4.50, the highest it's been in 4 years. The price of beef soaring more than 15% over the past year. Yesterday, the administration launched an effort to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic. But in the past 48 hours, only 2 commercial ships have crossed, more than 1,500 stacked up outside. And late tonight, the president abruptly announcing he was pausing the U.S. effort. It came after Iran opened fire on some commercial vessels, including American Navy ships, which fired back. Earlier, Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasizing that didn't mean the U.S. had resumed attacks on Iran.
This is a defensive operation. And what that means is very simple. There's no shooting unless we're shot at first. Okay, we're not attacking them. We are only responding if attacked first. This is a defensive operation.
Rubio then taking it a step further, declaring that Operation Epic Fury itself is over. This, though President Trump's goal in starting the war to eliminate Iran's nuclear program remains out of reach. 10 weeks in, are we any closer to getting rid of Iran's nuclear material?
Yeah, but look, here's the way to think about Iran. So their ability to build a shield behind which they could hide their nuclear program was wiped out. That's a very substantial achievement, and that was the purpose of this operation from day one.
Their nuclear material in order for this war to end.
Well, that's one of the topics that needs to be discussed. I don't know about, I think you're linking it. The operation is over. Epic Fury, as the president notified Congress, we're done with that stage of it.
The secretary telling Mary the operation is over. Mary asking the questions there on Iran late today. And Mary, there's another breaking headline tonight. Republican lawmakers are now pushing a bill that would include $1 billion in taxpayer money for the president's new White House ballroom.
And David, this came as a surprise. Republicans are including $1 billion for the president's ballroom in a funding bill they're preparing to pass themselves. They claim it will only pay for security enhancements. The president, of course, has already torn down the entire East Wing to make way for the ballroom. And of course, he promised it would be paid for entirely by private donations. David.
All right, Mary Bruce leading us off tonight. Mary, thank you. The other developing story at this hour, this unfolding scene on board a cruise ship. Passengers and crew trapped on the ship in the Atlantic. The race to contain a suspected deadly virus outbreak now. 3 dead, 17 Americans among those stuck on board. And tonight we've learned a British doctor who was treating passengers is now sick himself. Here's Victor Oquendo tonight with new reporting.
After 3 deaths on board this luxury cruise ship, tonight teams are racing to contain a suspected outbreak of a rare strain of Hantavirus that health officials say may spread person to person.
We do believe that there may be some human-to-human transmission that's happening among the really close contacts, the husband and wife, people who've shared cabins.
The World Health Organization suspects the first victims, a Dutch couple, were likely infected before boarding the ship weeks ago in Argentina, where the rare Andes strain was discovered. At least 4 people have fallen ill, including a British doctor who has been caring for sick patients. He's now in serious condition and will be airlifted tonight along with 2 other patients before the ship sails on from Cape Verde to Spain's Canary Islands. 17 Americans among those stranded on that ship. Hantavirus is usually spread through exposure to rodents. Workers are now disinfecting cabins as a precaution. Tonight, health officials are trying to reassure the stranded passengers.
We hear you, we know that you are scared, and we're trying to make sure that the ship has as much information as they can.
Yesterday, American passenger Jake Rosemarin opened up about the fear and uncertainty on that ship.
All we want right now is to feel safe, to have clarity, and to get home.
Tonight, we checked in with Jake, who says everyone on board remains in good spirits and are hopeful, saying there are safety measures in place. Masking, meals delivered to cabins, and access to decks for fresh air. The ship is expected in the Canary Islands in 3 or 4 days. Spanish health officials say passengers and crew will be examined, treated, and eventually transferred home. David?
3 or 4 more days. Let's hope they get off this ship soon. Thank you, Victor. Now to the newly obtained video here tonight showing those alarming moments when that United passenger jet came in for landing at Newark Airport, flying so low over the turnpike that the plane hit a truck and a light pole. Authorities say this was a near disaster and what they're now asking tonight with these new images. Here's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, the clearest video yet of that United Airlines 767 slamming into a bakery delivery truck and a light pole. Federal investigators studying the newly obtained video showing the plane inches from disaster. The massive wheel hitting the top of that truck. You can see the incoming plane in this dashcam video just before impact. The driver hit with glass and debris. These photos obtained by ABC News show the damage to that truck. That driver was taken to the hospital where he was treated and released for minor injuries.
If they had pulled up at the last second too abruptly, they would have dragged the tail and possibly created an even worse situation.
Around 2 p.m. Sunday, gusty winds causing that flight with 231 people on board to land on runway 29. The runway takes you right over the New Jersey Turnpike, a shorter runway forcing pilots to get on the ground as soon as they can.
What this shows very clearly is that this airplane was over 100 feet lower than where it should have been as it crossed the New Jersey Turnpike and brushed the top of a truck and a light standard.
And David, United says that the crew members who were flying that plane have now been removed from service as they conduct a rigorous investigation.
David. And you'll stay on this for us, Gio. Thank you. We also have new reporting tonight after the Secret Service and that shootout with a gunman not far from the White House on the National Mall. Tonight we have learned what he allegedly said following his arrest. So was this politically motivated? Here's Pierre Thomas tonight.
Tonight, top law enforcement officials identifying the suspect in a National Mall shootout that sent tourists and reporters running as 45-year-old Michael Marks, who had a Texas driver's license. D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro sitting down exclusively with ABC News, officially confirming the suspect's identity and saying that charges are imminent.
The complaint is being drawn right now. He is charged and will be charged with an assault on a federal officer and discharging a firearm during a crime of violence.
Any sense of why he was in Washington? Is any sense that this is politically motivated?
Well, one of the things that he said on the way to the hospital was F the White House and kill me, kill me, kill me 3 times. But he was very clear, F the White House.
Law enforcement sources say investigators have executed search warrants on his phone and other devices. On Monday afternoon, undercover Secret Service agents and officers noticing a suspect with a print of what appeared to be a firearm. The agents calling for backup. The suspect drawing a handgun and opening fire. Authorities believe he hit a teenage bystander. The shooter hit several times as officers returned fire. Tourists shaken.
And then we hear shots over here. I'm a little bit scared.
Washington has remained on the edge since the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Cole Allen seen on surveillance allegedly rushing past the magnetometer. Today, Allen indicted by a grand jury. He now faces an additional charge of assaulting an officer with a deadly weapon. Does the evidence, to your satisfaction, prove that he fired the shot that injured the Secret Service officer?
Of that, I have no doubt. Of that, the grand jury agreed.
David, the judge making it clear that she believes that Cole Allen shot that Secret Service officer. And as for Monday's shooting on the National Mall, a bit of good news. The judge says that teenager who was wounded has been released from the hospital.
Pierre Thomas with us here tonight. Pierre, thank you. Well, tonight the real scare at Yellowstone National Park. 2 hikers mauled in a possible grizzly bear attack. Another hiker hearing their calls for help from a distance and then finding them. Here's Trevor Ault tonight.
Tonight, the terrifying scene in Yellowstone National Park. 2 hikers mauled in a possible grizzly bear attack.
Definitely bear.
Craig Lerman was on Mystic Falls Trail near Old Faithful when he spotted massive paw prints.
Continued up the trail, saw a bloody hat and a watch that looked like it was torn off.
They belonged to a 28-year-old man, alone and badly wounded.
He started yelling for help. I have never seen anything like it before. His face, his back, his legs.
Talking with 911 dispatchers, Craig says he covered the victim with his own T-shirt.
It was bad. And knowing that that bear was still there somewhere was scary as well.
He tells ABC News the man's 14-year-old brother was also attacked. Both were airlifted to the hospital.
I just hope that they both make it, and everyone needs to be aware of these things because you don't really think it's going to happen to you.
And David, that Good Samaritan says he was told both victims survived and they're both recovering. David.
Trevor Ault reporting tonight. Trevor, thanks as always. Now to the disturbing video tonight showing a brawl erupting during a youth football game. This is in Fort Myers, Florida, and tonight a mother has been arrested, accused of attacking a young player on the field. And what that mother now claims. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, a brawl at a youth football game in Southwest Florida, ending in one mother's arrest, accused of repeatedly striking a player.
She's detained because they said you hit a kid.
Bystander video from Saturday's game in Fort Myers shows players getting into a scuffle, referees blowing the whistle, but teammates joining the melee. Watch as a woman runs on the field and appears to kick a player while he's on the ground. Adults rushing in to intervene.
I generally don't know what went through the lady's mind.
Deputies attempting to detain the woman, identified as Renee Lambert.
Get your stuff, don't.
Lambert saying one of the players also hit her.
I didn't do anything.
Tonight, that mother facing charges of cruelty toward a child and resisting an officer.
David, the Fort Myers Youth Football Organization said in a statement that the parent is banned from all events and activities and that it fully supports and is cooperating with the police investigation. David.
All right, Stephanie Ramos with us. Steph, thank you. Tonight, tracking severe storms in multiple states and where they're getting several inches of snow. It's May and rain coming to New York City in the Northeast. So let's get right to senior meteorologist Lee Goldberg back with us tonight. Hey there, Lee.
Hey, David, a splash of summer here in the Northeast. We hit 80 in New York City, but the winds of change are definitely coming in. It's a strong cold front, showers in the Ohio Valley, and we're seeing strong storm severe weather from Dallas to Memphis. Tomorrow, those showers and downpours move from the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. The severe weather, that shifts from East Texas to Georgia. A level 3 out of 5 risk for severe weather. We could have hail and tornadoes from Jackson, Mississippi to Birmingham, Alabama. Even some strong storms in Atlanta, a flood watch there. In the meantime, the Mets and Rockies were postponed because rain is going to change to snow in Denver. Winter storm warnings there up to a half foot of snow. Tale of two seasons. David?
Lee Goldberg with us here tonight. Lee, thank you. Tonight there is an urgent manhunt underway for a retired special operations veteran accused of shooting and wounding his wife in Dover, Tennessee. Authorities say Craig Berry shot his wife during a domestic dispute and escaped into the woods. Now on the run since last Friday, they believe he's armed and dangerous with extensive training and survival tactics. He was last seen on camera wearing camouflage clothing. No word on his wife's condition tonight. When we come back, the decision from Delta Airlines about snacks on planes. Also ahead, the alarming video tonight. Authorities say a driver chasing a child on a dirt bike right onto the sidewalk there. Also, we've learned the verdict just in tonight, what the jury has decided in the case of a former NFL star who played for the Patriots. And look at this tonight, the EMT students learning CPR, suddenly jumping into action when something happened to their instructor right in front of them. A lot more news ahead here. Tonight we have alarming video of a driver who authorities believe was aiming for a child on a dirt bike. The video from Spokane, Washington, showing the driver pulling out of the sidewalk right there, chasing after the child on the bike before eventually returning to the street. The child was okay. The driver was arrested about a mile away, allegedly attempting to break into a home. She's now charged with felony assault, DUI, and trespassing. Tonight, Delta Airlines ending snack and drink service on hundreds of shorter flights. The flights affected all under 350 miles, flight time of about an hour or so, unless you're in first class. The move could affect some 450 flights a day. The change starts 2 weeks from today. The move comes as jet fuel continues to rise. When we come back tonight, the verdict just in the case of the NFL star who played for the Patriots, what the jury decided. And the Rolling Stones' new album tonight, we hear their first song in a moment here. To the index of other news tonight, the verdict this evening. Former Patriots wide receiver Stefon Diggs found not guilty of assaulting his private chef. Diggs was charged with felony strangulation and misdemeanor assault after his former live-in chef, Jamila Adams, accused him of attacking her in December. Diggs' attorney said that never happened, and the case was, quote, an attempt to extract money. A jury took just 90 minutes to acquit him. The Rolling Stones tonight with a new album. It comes out this summer, previewing their first song this evening. Rough and Twisted, a blues number from the new album called Foreign Tongues, with Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Ron Wood, and guest artists Steve Winwood, Paul McCartney, and others. Foreign Tongues comes 62 years after the band's first album. Official release, July 10th. When we come back here tonight, he was teaching his class CPR when the unthinkable. But those students jumped in, and quickly. Finally tonight here, America Strong. He was teaching them CPR, and they were clearly listening. Tonight in Appleton, Wisconsin, just outside Green Bay, one extraordinary act. The EMT students learning CPR, then saving their teacher's life during their lesson. EMT paramedic instructor Mr. Carl Arps has taught students for years at Fox Valley Technical College. During their CPR lesson, Mr. Arps was acting out chest pains when all of a sudden he started going into cardiac arrest himself inside their school's ambulance that they use for practice. The students immediately recognized the signs that they'd been taught by Mr. Arps, realizing this was not a drill. They jumped into action, performing CPR using a defibrillator, first responders then racing him to the hospital. He would undergo open heart surgery and he would survive. And this is the moment Mr. Arps walks back into that very classroom to thank the students he taught. And right here tonight,
hi, David.
His EMT students, Sophie DeValk and Anella Reel.
I was in the right spot at the right time. Something that I feel like anyone would do if they were in our position at that time.
Hi, David.
Students Logan Lair and Brian Marsh.
It's been pretty sweet to see him up and moving again, which is it's awesome to see.
I definitely will feel far more confident walking out into the field at the end of everything than I did walking into class on the first day.
And tonight, joining us too.
Hello, David.
Their EMT instructor, Mr. Arps, back home and proud of his students.
I am living proof that CPR works. Learn how to save lives. My students did, and I'm here. Thank you. Have a good night, David.
Well, think of all the lives you've saved, Mr. Arps, and now your life has been saved too. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America.